Hello, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Giselle, my pronouns are they, them, and I have a stitching update to share with you for the last 2 weeks. I ended up stitching for 56 hours in total, and I have 13,660 stitches that are tracked to share with you, but then I also have 2 projects that I stitched on that were paper patterns that I don't have tracked stitches for, so basically I did a lot of stitching, definitely over 14,000, so like 1,000 a day, which I'm really happy about. That's kind of been like my goal in the back of my head, is to try to get 1,000 a day, which has been a bit of a push, but I've managed to do it somehow. Not every day, but it's been an accumulation. Anyway, let's just get started, but really quickly I did want to say thank you so much. I ended up hitting 600 subscribers and I just really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you're new here, welcome. I appreciate you. I know a few of you I met at Midsummer Stitch, and if you're here from that, I'm so glad that I ended up meeting you there. Okay, so the first project, if you are new here, I go through my projects from least amount of progress to most amount of progress. So my first project I ended up working on for 1 hour and 1 minute. It was 1.82% of my stitching. And I ended up getting 238 stitches on it. I managed to do a lot of stitches for a full cross project for me, but it's because it was just fill-in. It does have a swear word if you don't want to see that. Although maybe this isn't the right channel for you if you don't like swear words. This is, I don't believe they have I believe they closed their Etsy store, but it was from StitchyLittleFox. But it's 2 dinosaurs and it says, "Fight me, you long ass bitch." So there we are. And then I've tried to start taking pictures so I have them before I start working on things. So I do have a before picture, which is nice. So that this is what it was looking at like the last time you saw it. So all I have left to do is finish the A and then the CH and then fill in the whole T-Rex. And so I was just working on the fill-in. And yeah, I'm proud. I feel like I did a lot. It's just because it was fill-in that I was able to do so much. I normally can't do quite that much on a full cross like Ada project or whatever, and this is just a fabric that I dyed myself, and I'm going to try to remember to keep showing you my backs like I started last week. But there we go, there's my stitch path, and there it is. This only has 216 stitches left, so I only need 1 more hour to finish this. I'm gonna explain at the end of my update why I didn't just finish this. But it's for a specific reason. And I'm stitching that for a friend of mine. Although I started it January 2023, so it's been like over 1.5 years. I really just need to buckle down and finish it. Okay, so my next project, I don't have a before picture technically, nor do, so I guess there's 3 projects I didn't track my stuff on. But I started doing some more tiny stitching. There is someone that I ended up meeting at Midsummer Stitch, who I had shared some of my my little tiny stitches. Oh, I do have them right here. But like these tiny stitches in the tiny frames, and she had said that, "Oh, why don't you, like, you should make those into some studs." Well, not these specifically, but some other ones, because I had made like the big thistle earrings. But she was like, "Why don't you make those into studs?" And I was like, I never thought about that because I don't wear small earrings. Like, I either wear no earrings or I wear big earrings. Like these ones are hoops with little mushrooms inside. I just like a statement earring, so I never would have thought of it to like do little studs, but they totally would work. And I was like, well, I wouldn't wear them, but if she would wear them, and she showed us like her earring collection and stuff, and it was so cool. I don't know if she wants to be mentioned because I didn't ask. And she doesn't have a Flosstube channel, but she does have an Instagram where she posts it. So I'll just say her name is Sarah, because that's a pretty common name. But I'll check with her on Instagram, and if she's okay, then I'll link her Instagram down below, because she's working on some really great projects. And I had a really fun time going through her Instagram. But I was like, well, let me stitch you some studs. I will make some studs for you, and then you can wear them. Because I won't, and I would like... I mean, they should be they should be worn if they're going to be made. So I started making some, but then I stitched on them for a few days, and then I kind of got sick. I was just like, was having bad like neck pain for a couple days, and so then I didn't feel like working on them anymore. And so I will get back to them. I have like 1 or 2 more things I want to stitch before I start cutting them out and actually making them into the earrings. It's just like, I want to keep like fit as much into this like bit of fabric as I can. So I don't know how much you can see, but I also have pictures. But these are 2 little snails. And then these are 2 little frogs. And I don't think, yeah, you can really tell. I also might restitch some of them to try to get them a little crisper, be a little bit better with my tension and stuff. So we'll see. But these are, oh, let's see. Oh my gosh, please, no. So these are the snails. And here it is with a penny, so you can see how small they are. And then for the frogs, here I was fitting them into these little oval hoops. The frogs I don't think are quite as recognizable as the snails. It's just hard to get very like a crisp detail. So what I ended up doing, so these ones are stitched, my thistle and stuff are stitched on 46 count over 1. So they're bigger, like you can see it better. But I'm trying to see if I have a picture so you can see them. I don't remember if I do. I think I have them downloaded. I should have made sure that I had them right here. But maybe I don't have them. Okay. Okay, here it is. Sorry. I'm so sorry. So here are the 3 that I already did. So this is 46 count. So they are bigger. I was able to do it with DMC. So I had a full color palette. It's like crisper and brighter and bolder. This is 56 count. So it is like significantly smaller. These are both 1/1 half cross. And I'm doing it with the Tudor silks that I was able to get when I was at Stitching Paradise. I want to order more of these because I stitched something else with this and I'm in love. But the colors I ended up using, so I haven't used the color lacquered gold yet. But then for the snail, I ended up using milk chocolate and vanilla for the body. Or I ended up using milk chocolate for the body of the snail. And then I ended up using vanilla and olivine for the shell. What is the word for the shell of the snail? And it ended up working out quite well, I think. I'm sorry if this is a little scattered. I was like preparing for this video all day and it's already such a mess. Not all day, but for hours. I feel like I was like collecting stuff and getting my thoughts together and things. But anyway, so those are the colors I ended up using. So I am working with a very limited color palette. I have a green, like a dusty purpley brown, an off-white, and a yellow. And then I also have a red, a very bright red, but that's not a Tudor silk, it's a different kind of thing. And then for the frog, I just used the brown for the eye and the brown for the eye and the green for the body, obviously. But I don't know how much they actually look like frogs, so we'll see. But I have some other thoughts. There's like one pattern, so these are off of, I'll leave the direct patterns down below. These are from Bracelet, or from Alpha Patterns, or Bracelet Book, I don't remember. But it's like for making bracelets, and I'm just taking little motifs out of them to stitch. And there's another one that I want to make that's a roly-poly for her. And then there's also one that is a leaf that I was thinking about making. So I have a few more that I want to make that I can stitch right here before I start cutting up this piece of fabric and start like making them into the earrings. And maybe I can take better pictures to document that for you. Anyway, we're only on the second project. I've already talked infinitely long. That's me. I'm just a blabbermouth. I can't help but talk and talk and talk. But I've started doing more tiny stitching, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I was so glad that I met someone who was like, those need to be studs. And I was like, that's a brilliant idea. But maybe I'll end up doing some little flowers and stuff as well on like the 46 count, and those will be more legible. So I have some other things I want to make, but doing the 56, I really only have like 4 colors to play with right now. So eventually I want to get more Tudor silk, and then I think it will be more, yeah, I'll have more to work with. And then if I get more of like the spools of thread, this is the red color that I have, which is the YLI silk, which I haven't tried yet, but this should be, these I can only do half cross on the 56. But these I should be able to do full cross on the 56. And if that's true, I think this would look a lot crisper. So if I could get like, I don't know, like some other more like, I don't want to say stable colors. I'm not trying to say, I don't know, colors to like flush out my color story, then I think I should be able to like build some stuff with these. Anyway. There's my adventures in tiny stitching that I've been doing, and it's been really fun. I'm glad I got inspired, and I actually do really like how the snails turned out. But I have more stuff coming. I have more things that I want to stitch. I just didn't get to it because after I did those few, then I ended up not feeling well. Okay, my next project, I did tiny stitching, so I just like collect those all together in one area of my tracker. So I worked on all of those for an hour and 14 minutes. It was 2.21% of my stitching. Okay, my next project is Visit Mordor, and this I ended up working on for 2 hours exactly. It was 3.59% of my stitching, and I ended up doing 1,062 stitches, which again is just because it's the block stitching and half cross. I could not do that with any other project. But the last time you saw this, I had to grab a screenshot from my last video. I'm going to try to start taking like actual pictures before I start stitching, so these will be a lot more crisp. But I'm trying to do an hour a week on these. And I've been doing it. So far I've done 6 hours into this. And it just continues to grow, the sky of Mordor. And I don't know. I don't have a lot to say. It's just going. I'm at 14.93%. And in total, I'm at 33.64%. So it's coming along. I'm basically just choosing a color from each block and just like going in little sections, because because I don't like working on the same color from multiple threads. I know people will like, I'll just thread like 10 needles with the same color and then stitch them all in, and I'm like, I could not stitch with the same color for that long. If there's multiple colors in a pattern, like I don't like doing that. Also, for my tiny stitching, I'm like, I would show you the back, but the back looks like nothing because it's so small. Also, I already moved the camera. I'm such a mess. Okay. Hopefully it's okay. All right, my next project is my Hungarian Biscornu. I don't know if you have seen this before, except for in my whip parade from last year. But I only worked on it for 2 hours and 10 minutes. It was 3.88% of my stitching. That is what it will look like when it is finished. It does have a different motif on the top and the bottom, but the bottom barely has any stitching. And then where it was when I started stitching on it was right here. So I just started working over, and I ended up putting 350 stitches exactly into this. So finish this middle motif. I'm almost done with this corner. I just need to finish this, I don't know, candy cane looking part. The stripy bit right there. But there we go. If I was to start this project right now, I would do it very differently. So this is, I really wanted to stitch something. I actually started this a really long time ago. This is one of my oldest projects. Actually, I can check that. It is my 4th oldest project. So it has been languishing. I started it on, oh, I forgot to say, Visit Mordor is by Country Magic Stitch. And this is by SirenStitchworks. But I'll have every pattern linked down below, as usual. I wanted to stitch something that was like useful for my sister. So I started this on May 21st, 2023. And this is going to be a very large Biscornu because, I mean, once it's like turned and everything, like it's going to be quite substantial. I don't know why I haven't picked it up because I actually do quite enjoy stitching on it, but it's just like, it's so ginormous. So I'm stitching this on like a 32 count, some kind of even weave. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I don't know. If I was to start this now, instead of over 2 years ago when I did initially start it, I'd probably do like a 40 count or something. Like, I would want this to be a lot more like delicate and sweet and everything. My family is Hungarian. So I wanted to stitch something for my sister that she could use it because she's a seamstress and it would be functional for her. But I think it's just going to be so big. I don't know how functional it actually will be. Like, is it going to be too big and too cumbersome and too annoying to use it? I don't know. I'll have to see. But, I am excited to get it finished. I'm at 33.1%. It really doesn't take too long to actually stitch on it. So, it's not that bad. I only have like 16 more hours to stitch on it, and maybe less if my stitching, I'm sure I'm a quicker stitcher than I was 2 years ago. And this was one of my very first projects I ever started over to. This might have been my first project I started over to, honestly. So, that's what the back looks like. But I'm glad I pulled it back out, and I'll just keep chipping away at it, and eventually she'll get this that I meant to give to her like years ago. Oops. Okay. My next project is my autumn flowers. I ended up working on it for 2 hours and 48 minutes, which was 5% of my stitching time. I ended up doing 646 stitches. I ended up here. So this is what it looks like. I'm not going to be doing the outer borders at all. I'm only going to stitch the inner motif. And this is what it looked like the last time you saw it. Ooh, that looks really blown out for some reason. Let me try to trim that down even more. That's a little bit better. So I have one rose fully done and then another rose almost done. And I feel like I got a really good amount done on this. So finished the second rose and then I put in like these leaves and then these leaves and working on this rosebud down here. It's getting chipped away at. Okay. Oh, this is what the back is looking like. Alright, my next project is like the most fun thing. So I don't have a before picture or anything, but JedxStitch, Jessica Doizé. Last time I mentioned her, I said her name wrong even though I knew how to say it. I said it wrong anyway, which was embarrassing. So I'm sorry, but incredible designer. I have a couple patterns from here today. She was one of the designers at Midsummer Stitch. I did end up buying her pattern there, and I don't know when I'm gonna start it, but I really wanted to have it. And after seeing her talk, I was like, finally, I'm gonna start her little freebie Pikmin pattern because I just think it is so cute, and I really do like Pikmin. So I did, and since I ended up getting these Tudor silks, I ended up stitching it 1/1 on 40 count full cross. So it's delightfully small. And since the pattern is 40 by 40, since it's 1/1 on 40 count, it means it's like an inch square and it is very precious. Really quickly, I'll say I ended up working on this for 3 hours and 25 minutes, and it was 6.12% of my stitching time. And there it is, my sweet, adorable little Pikmin. I love them. Look how precious they are. Ugh. This was really fun to stitch. I'm very enamored by how I don't know how well it's focusing, but I'm very enamored by how like the pooling of the floss, the variegated floss, it's stitched up so beautifully. And I feel like sometimes with a lot of floss, which makes sense, like if they're thinking, oh, you're going to be stitching this on 28 count over 2 or like 14 count or whatever, you don't want the colors to be switching so quickly that there's such long gaps before the variegation switches that it's like not as nice to stitch on like 40 count over 2 or whatever, like, because then there's such long gaps between the variegation. It's just like some threads are just more suited to like certain counts or whatever, the way they like pool. This is so lovely for 40 count over 1. I was just thoroughly impressed by that. I did take a picture um, did I not? Oh, there it is. I did take a picture so you can like see it compared next to a penny, and maybe you can even see the detail better like that. Oh, look how cute it is. But the way that the floss just like laid out while I was stitching with it was just so fun and so pretty, and it was so satisfying. And like stitching on 40 count over 1 with these Tudor silks was honestly so dreamy and amazing. I want to do like a whole pattern with it. It was such a delight, and another reason that I want to get more. It was just chef's kiss. So this was like the most fun thing to stitch, and I am in love. It also really helps that like this pattern was also just super fun because I could like stitch up here on the leaves, and then I could stitch on here on the border, and then I could stitch a pigment, and then I could stitch more leaves, and then I could stitch the next pigment, and then I could do more of the border on the bottom, finish the last pigment, and then finish up the border. And it was just very like satisfying to stitch because there was always like something really fun, which was like the adorable freaking pigment. So good. I really recommend. If you're interested in grabbing that pattern, I'll leave Jessica's Instagram tag down below, and you just need to scroll back a little bit, and the pattern is right on the Instagram as a freebie, and you can just take a screenshot of it. 10 out of 10. I recommend. It's so good. But yeah, it just makes me want to stitch on even more stuff by JedxStitch. I have only one pattern of hers going right now, but I'll definitely be starting more in the next few months probably. Okay, my next project is Le Voyage dans la Lune. This is, I worked on it for 3 hours and 33 minutes. It was 6.35% of my stitching time, and let's see. It is by Urban Stitches. This is what it looks like. And it is a black work piece. And I really like it. I hadn't worked on it for a while, so I decided to finally pull it out. And I'm actually really impressed by how much I got done in just 3.5 hours. So this is what it looked like when I pulled it out. But I just started at the center top, and I decided to work over to the sides of the pages, or the sides of that page. There we go. And oh, I guess for my pigment really quick. That's what the back looks like. Before I forget. Because if I don't show it now, it will probably never be shown. Okay. This one again really quick. Okay, so let me find something else to put it behind it because... Okay. So I worked over to the page edge just so I could have a nice stopping point. But I feel like I added a lot in, and it's all done with either 1 strand or 2 strand. I'm definitely not stitching like in the neatest way. I'm just stitching in however I feel like. I'm not really analyzing fully like my stitch path before I go. I'll like look at it for a second. I'll be like, I'm gonna start here, and then I just kind of run with my thread till it's out. But I'm just kind of grabbing and going and then working with it. But yeah, I feel like I got a good amount done. I'm happy with where it's at. And this is what the back looks like, which is kind of chaotic. Especially because I'm just carrying, because there's 2 strands and 1 strand. When I'm working on it and it's just the one, like just either the 2-strand or the 1-strand, it looks okay, neat. And then when I put in the other one, like a lot of times you're carrying really far. And I'm like, I could end off my thread each time and then start each time, but I don't feel like it. So I'm not. And then when I end off my threads, I run it quite far underneath as well, because I'm like, I don't want it to come out. So my back is a little chaotic, but that's okay. But this is going to be beautiful. And like I said, I think for only working on it for 3.5 hours, like that's a huge amount of progress. So this is what I had done. It was like this little bit, and then I did all of that and all of that. Brilliant. Okay, my next project, Earth Dragon, or Earth Dragons by Ink Circles. This is, I ended up working out for 3 hours and 49 minutes. I did 788 stitches. Here, this is what it looks like. And this for me, it's not even that it's like a mandala type pattern and that I don't really feel like stitching the same thing over and over again. It's not even that is the issue with this pattern for me. I don't know what is the vibe of this, but since the second I started it, before I even started even stitching anything repetitive, I kind of didn't want to stitch it. And I don't know why. But, I mean, I bought it, I own it, and I really like how it looks. I think it's so beautiful. But I don't think I would stitch the other ones. I think this is the only one I would ever stitch. And then just call it good, because I don't think I could bear to stitch the other ones. I am stitching this on Atomic Ranch Fabrics Wild Mint, and I think the fabric is really beautiful. And then I'm just stitching it with 500 by DMC, which is a really beautiful color. But I don't know, and everything about it is really beautiful. And it's not even the stitching the same thing over and over again. It's just something about this just doesn't itch my brain right. And I'm thankfully already pretty far the way through. I'm 22.63%, and I've spent 8 hours working on it so far. So I don't have that far left, I guess. I mean, 36 hours is a long time to spend on it that I have left, but it's not like a huge amount. It's not like my full coverages that have like over 1,000 hours left or something. Like, it's doable, even if I just did like, I don't know, like 10 hours a year. It would be done in 4 years, or I could do even less than that. Like, it's not going to take a huge amount of time, and when I do stitch on it, it stitches very quickly. So I don't know what my issue with it is, but it just never has really vibed for me. And it's not the repetitiveness, and I don't know what it is. Also, again, another one that, I think this is on 32 count, maybe, but if I was starting this now, I would not have done that. And the reason I chose 32 count is because I was at a store in person, and the only nice colors they had were basically 32 count and 28 count. They didn't have any good, like, 40 count and 36 count, so I just sucked it up and went with 32 count, and I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd bought something online instead, because 32 count is also just not my vibe. I wish I was doing this like 1/2 on like 40 count instead. I think it would just be like more dainty, but also this would be like very bold and pretty and take up more space on the wall on 32 count. Anyway, there's my Earth Dragon saga. Okay, my next project is Blueberry Harvest, another JedxStitch project. I know I have I thought I took a screenshot of like the pattern, but I guess I didn't. I don't know why I didn't do that. I think it's because I have like the magazine over there and I was like, let me just show that, but then I didn't grab the magazine. So I'll grab that in a second, but let me also just pull up my before picture. But Blueberry Harvest, if you remember, I had stitched just the tiniest little amount on it, and I had started it right after the spring mingle, and then I like put it down, and then I picked it up for Midsummer Stitch, and I kind of had a ball with it. Okay, so here is Blueberry Harvest. Oh, shit. Sorry. By JedxStitch. Oh, so beautiful. Brilliant pattern. I love it so much. It's incredible. Okay, and this I'm stitching with all the called for colors, and then I'm just stitching it on a 32 count 1/1 on another Atomic Ranch, but this time it's on Morning Lilac. And I do not like the 32 count because it's a Lugana, and I really dislike it a lot. The 32 count Lugana is like the tightest fabric I've ever stitched on, and it's really unpleasant. Oh, so here it is the last time you saw it. I'd barely done anything. This is like less than an hour of work. And then I ended up doing another 4.5 hours into it, and this is what it looks like now. So I made a good amount of progress, although this is probably the slowest I've ever stitched on a project before, because it is just stitching on the 32 count Lugana is like honestly a little painful after a while. Like I need to put it down just because it's so like tight to get your needle in and out. Not a vibe, but love the pattern. It's just my own bad decisions. It's so cute though. I'm obsessed with this pattern and I cannot wait to have it finished. It's just going to be the tiniest, cutest little thing, because I've already completed the full like width of the pattern. So here we are. So the full width, and that's what I already have done. So it's going to be so small and petite and adorable. And that's like 60 stitches wide, and it's 100 tall. So it's like maybe going to be that tall. Look how adorable it is. I'm obsessed. It's so cute, and I just love it. It's a little chickadee wearing a little hennin. It's the best thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Okay, the next project is Merry Mushroom Village Picnic, and this is definitely my largest project. I ended up working on it for 5 hours and 6 minutes. It was 9.11% of my stitching time, and I got it to 1%. I did 1,347 stitches, which is very exciting. Here it is. It is by Amy Stewart. It's a Heaven and Earth Designs piece, and this is the supersize max color. And it's really, really insanely big. And I'm gonna try to start doing 1,200 stitches on it a month. because if I don't, it will never get finished. And I don't really, this is kind of the one project that I'm like, I don't care when this gets finished. Most of my stuff, I'm like, I do want to get this finished. I do want to get it finished in the next like few years, etc. And this is the only one that I really don't care like if and when it gets finished. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want it to never get finished. That would kind of be sad. So I'm like, I want to start doing at least 1,200 stitches on it every month. And I decided that last month, which is why I did 1,300 stitches into it. So this is what it looked like when I started working on it. I had a ton of parked stitches. So that's what I started working on, was getting those worked in. And I made a lot of progress on that. So I just mostly filled up here and down there. And yeah, it's exactly 1% right now. So I'll just keep chipping away at this. And eventually it'll get up to 2% and etc. If I do 1,200 stitches each month, then that means every year I'll put at least 2% into it, which means it will be done by the time I'm 80, which is still a long time. But I'm just hoping that at least if I make consistent progress on it, then if there's like times that I decide to focus on it, that will get brought down even more. But at least it won't be languishing forever. It's kind of my thought. I don't know. I just, everything else, I'm like, oh yes, if I just do a little bit, it will be done in the next 5 years. And this is the only one that it's like, oh yeah, this project is over 700,000 stitches. I just can't easily make that something to get finished quickly. So I need to start making a very long-term plan that I can slowly start bringing down. Okay, my next project is by Thread Geeks. It's by Linda Ravenscroft. It's a perfect sphere. This is a retired chart, and this is what it looks like. And I ended up doing 5 hours and 11 minutes. It was 9.28% of my stitching time. And I'm really, really happy with how much I put into this, like how much progress you can see, because this is what it looked like the last time you saw it, or before I started working on it. And I spent a lot of time, again, just like working on the parked threads, but I particularly take note of their face. That's where I ended up putting a lot of the stitches. And this is where they look, what they look like now. Look how much of their face is done. And they have a little nose coming in, cheeks. A lot went into their eye. Their, like, crown thing is almost done. And also I got a lot of those parked threads worked in. There's still a lot more, but I'm working on it. And yeah. Oh, I forgot to show the background for Mary Mushroom. I'll grab that in a second, but I also reached an exciting milestone that this is at 52.8%. So this is like the last column, I think. So I'm like really working over there, but I'm halfway there. And halfway there, I spent 73 hours on it. So, hopefully I could get this done next year. That would be ideal. Because I started this last summer, almost a year later. I'm 50% through. So maybe next, like fallish, maybe I'll get it done. Who knows? And here's Mary Mushroom. Very chaotic. Alright. Just a couple more projects left to go. Ones with lots of progress. Okay, so Home in the Mountains. You all know it. This one is I ended up doing 5 hours and 31 minutes, 9.86% of my stitching time. It is by Golden Kite, and the artist is Jerry Vanderstelt, although I don't know. Heaven and Earth does I, or not Heaven and Earth, sorry, The Slander, no, Golden Kite does not credit the artist though, so I don't know if it is licensed. I suspect it is not, so that is why I choose not to link it, but I am still letting you know who it's from. I ended up doing... Oh, I forgot to say, for a perfect sphere, I did 1,561 stitches, and for Home in the Mountains, I ended up doing 2,137 stitches. This is what it looked like the last time you saw it. And I'm just trying to work down in a diagonal, get it filled in, and I think it's coming along. I did end up reaching 5% on this exactly, which is an exciting milestone. This is definitely one of my biggest projects. It's like including Mary Mushroom, it's like my third biggest project. So reaching 5% feels nice, but I'm trying to do 1,000 stitches each week, which is why it has over 2,000 stitches, and I'll keep doing 1,000 stitches each week, and it will continue to get chipped away at, and we'll see. Maybe eventually it will get more than that, but for now, 1,000 is what it's getting. Oh, I didn't show the back, but I mean, you saw the back last week and what it looks like. This one's pretty sane for me, not too chaotic. Okay. Second to last project. Okay, so I pulled out the Devil, which is very fun. This is by Thread Geeks. I think I forgot I had 2 Thread Geeks projects. Interesting. This is by A Scythe, and I think that's how you say it. Let's see. Yeah, that's how I'm guessing you say it. And, you know, would it even be a video of mine if I didn't have at least 2 Lord of the Rings projects? That is the question. But the Devil, I hadn't worked on this in a while. It was sitting at 10% for a long time. So I pulled it out, and this is one that I've kind of been letting sit there for a while after I let it get to 10%. But then I was kind of thinking about a lot of these bigger full coverage pieces that I want to, you know, get to completion in the next 5 to 10 years. And how much I would need to do on each of them to get them to that point. And for this one, I was like, well, if I wanted to get it done, because there's a whole collection of these, so they're tarot cards. This one is the Devil, but there's like, the Tower is like a bunch of the Nazgul writing, like fell beasts, and Death is one of the Nazgul, and I think like Temperance is Galadriel, like pouring like water, and I don't know, there's like a whole ton of them. The Hangman is really cool. I don't know if I would personally stitch it, because I don't know if I want like Frodo's nipple is out, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to look at Frodo's nipple, but it's like Frodo hanging upside down after being caught by the spider. I don't remember their name. Shelob, is that the spider? But like, they're really beautiful. I really like them. The Emperor, of course, is I'm like, can't remember his name, Strider. I don't know. I can't remember his real name. Anyway, my brain hurts at this point because I've already been filming for 50 minutes, but they're like a really cool series, and I really want to stitch a bunch of them, but if I want to stitch more than like 4 of them, you know, I need to get a move on. They can't all take like 5, they all can't take like 10, 15 years. You know, I started this one in 2023. I need to get a fucking move on. So I was like, well, let's say I finish this one by 2030, and then I try to finish one every 5 years at least. Then I'll be able to get a good amount of them done. There's like 21 of them, I think. So I was looking at them, and I was kind of thinking about which ones I'd want to prioritize and do next. And I was like, okay, well, I need to get this one done before I start the next one. And so all this to say is that I pulled it out, and I was like, I need to do 2,000 stitches a month so I can get this done. Awesome. That's the point of this. Aragorn. I don't know where my brain forgets the things it forgets. But here's where this was looking the last time you saw it. Or the last time I had worked on it. And I ended up putting a lot down here, a bunch of random stuff in here, and then a good amount up here. And I'm really happy with how much I got in. I ended up, doing 2,384 stitches because I worked on it a little bit yesterday. Yesterday was the 1st, so a little bit in August. But I did end up doing 2,000 last month, which I'm happy about. And I'm going to keep trying to do 2,000 every month. Let that, try to get it done. I mean, I think I'll get it done in 2029 if I keep doing 2,000 each month, but, you know. I'm really proud with how much I did. And I do like having monthly goals over weekly goals. Like, I don't mind having a couple weekly goals. I have 3 weekly goals at this point, which is visit Mordor. Oh, I guess I did have the 2 Lord of the Rings projects. 3 Lord of the Rings projects in this video now. But if I have, so visit Mordor, I try to do an hour on it each week. My next project, which is Condensed with Squid, I'm trying to do 0.33% on each week, which is like 1,200 stitches plus, I don't know, that ends up being around 4 hours maybe. And then Home in the Mountains, I'm doing 1,000 stitches on each week. If I add more weekly goals in, I will be so overwhelmed. So doing monthly stuff that I can check off, I think would be a lot better for me. So that's what I'm trying to do, is throw in some monthly ones that I can tackle here and there, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, anyway, my next project is, aka my last project, is my Contessa with Squid. Yeah, the double was 6 hours and 12 minutes. I did 11.08%, and then Contessa with Squid was 9.58%, which was, 8 hours. I don't know what I'm saying. It was 8 hours and 58 minutes, and it was 16% of my stitching time. And I ended up doing 2,529 stitches on her. She's at 33.5%. So I did a little bit more than I think she's supposed to be at, I don't know why I said 33 point whatever. She's at 11.35%. I don't know what I'm saying right now. I'm absolutely losing it. So I did just a tiny bit more. She's supposed to be at 11.33%. Anyway, absolutely losing it at this point. And I didn't show you a before picture. Anyway, so I do have a couple before pictures to show you because I need to just start taking them fully at this point, but I was trying to finish working in down here and finish up here, but then I did finish that, and since I didn't end up filming, I ended up moving the hoop, so I also took a picture up here after I moved the hoop and started working on it, or before I started working on it. So all that combined, here it is at right now. So I didn't technically quite finish a diagonal down here. I don't know. It was close enough. And I said, good enough for me. But then I started adding a lot up here. I don't know how big my diagonal is going to end up being. But for now, it just felt natural to come all the way out to where this tentacle was. Because I didn't want to stop partway through that tentacle. But I don't really have a set amount for how big I want my diagonals to be. Whew. I realized I forgot to show the back of the devil as well. But here is the back of it. Very chaotic, as usual with my full coverage. And there's the back of the devil. So I believe that is everything for like Stitchy update stuff. Now on to like my explanation about why I didn't keep stitching. I'm trying to find it on this. Fight me. And why I didn't just finish it. So I've talked before a little bit about how I want all my projects to get 5 hours of stitching this year. And I have a list of 21 projects that still need to get that. This is on there, although it only has, I think it has like 2 hours for this year, and it's only gonna get 1 more hour before it's finished, so they're not all going to, actually it has 3 hours for this year, so it's only gonna get to 4 hours before it's finished, and there's a couple more like that where it's like, it has less than 5 hours to go before it's done. But I have 21 projects, including this one, to be stitched on before they get that 5 hour goal completion. And I've made a spin wheel to be working on them. And I've kind of been doing this for a while, but I've only been working on 5 of them at a time. So that's why you've been seeing like Hungarian Biscornu is on there. Autumn Flowers you've been seeing. I've been chipping away at that one. My La Danse de la Lune came up. Anyway, some of them have been, and I've only been spinning 5 of them at a time, and then once one of them hits their 5 hour goal, it goes away and I add a different one from this list on, and I work on only 5 of them at a time until they meet their 5 hour goal, and then they're done for the year. But I mean, the reason I'm doing that specifically is because if I just do an hour here or there on like all 21 that are left, that might be very erratic for you all to see when I'm stitching on them, because you'll only see like an hour of progress on like 6 different projects in a week, which is a lot. So I was kind of thinking about doing some kind of like vlogging type thing with like a spinning wheel thing anyway. And then I was watching Elle from the Keystone Stitcher, and she was talking about doing Arbitrary August, which is something that Stitching Mommy came up with, where each month she does like a random number generator type thing or a spinny wheel and chooses a random project each day of August, and it's just very arbitrary what she ends up working on. And so Elle was talking about how she's going to do that this month as well, and just do weekly updates with all the like talking about everything she worked on that week. which is great. I love that. I'm so excited to see her updates. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to do, but I want to do it with specifically just my 21 projects. And then if any of them hit that 5 hours, I can move them off and it will go down. So I started yesterday. I didn't film clips, but I noted down and took pictures of like what I did work on. And this was my first one. And I was like, I only have an hour left and it will be done. But we'll see if it comes up in August. So my attempt is going to be kind of like what Emily did last year from Crafty Emily in October, where every day in October I think she did it where she spun the wheel every day in October and did a vlog every day in October and posted that and worked on a random project every day in October. And I'm going to try to do the same thing for August. I will say I have a very bad track record for being a consistent person online. Plus I do struggle with chronic pain and chronic migraines. So there may be days that I have to like combine together and do like multiple days together if I like can't make it work. But I'm really going to try to stick through the full amount of August and post almost every day in August. And there we go. So we'll see. And then at the end of August, I will try to do a full month update, well, at the beginning of September, of everything I worked on. So if you don't want to see the monthly or the daily updates, you don't have to. You can just watch the recap at the end. And we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll abandon it. Maybe it will be too much. But we'll see. I think it'll be really fun. I'm also going to attempt to try to hit 1,000 stitches every day. I think that would be a really good goal. I'm already at over, let's see. I haven't updated this. I think I'm actually at like 100,000 stitches for the year. I don't think I could hit 200,000 by the end of the year. Well, we're a month into the second half of the year. If I am able to do 300 or 30,000 stitches in August, I might be able to hit 200,000 stitches this year, which would be wild. That's so much stitching for me. I've never hit anything close to that. And I know I do a bunch of half stitch and people don't count that as real stitching or whatever, but I count it and it's my channel, so whatever. But that would be insane if I could do that. So like doing that much stitching in August could definitely like boost me towards that. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Okay, I have another kind of challenge thing that I'm doing as well. So I've been thinking about this for like the last over a year, probably, of how I could incorporate my stitching and my reading together. But then I haven't really been reading consistently, so I never really figured out a way to make it work. But the idea that I came up with probably like a year ago is like tying like genres to specific projects. And then whenever I read books from those genres, I can work on specific projects. But then I wasn't reading enough that it didn't feel like worth it. And then also when I wasn't reading, or like if I would just read random books here or there, I also wasn't like keeping track of what I was reading and updating and all the stuff. But I finally went through in the last couple weeks, I updated everything on Storygraph. I went through and really like made sure I added everything. Everything is up to date for the year and last year and everything. I didn't update my my Goodreads Storygraph anything for like over a year. I finally did, so I'll leave my Storygraph link down below if you want to friend me. I can also leave my Goodreads link down below, but Goodreads sucks. Storygraph is a lot better, and I think you should make a Storygraph if you enjoy tracking what you read. Storygraph is way better than Goodreads. But I can leave both of those linked down below. But I read a wide variety of genres. So I was like coming up with like the genres and then tying them to specific projects. So I figured I would go through those for you and then kind of talk about how I was thinking I would do it. I don't know if I figured every week I could just share like the genres of books that I read and then like the projects that need the stitches. I don't know if anybody would want to stitch along with me. Probably not. I feel like it's just a very personal thing and I don't know. But anyway, so I kind of have a lot of genre fiction, which means like fiction of certain like subcategories. I don't know if you're like very familiar with like reading and the classifications and stuff, but basically fiction means like not real, and genre fiction are basically like subcategories of fiction. So like romance, sci-fi, fantasy, mystery are genre fiction. And then I also have a couple nonfiction categories because I read pretty widely. So I have 10 categories here. 9 of them are genres, and then one of them is just like a bonus little, I thought it would be funny. So I'm going to go through them. So the first one is fantasy. For that, I'm going to work on the devil. So this will help me get through those 2,000 stitches. I read a lot of fantasy. So there we go. The next one is Merry Mushroom Village Picnic for sci-fi, which is another category that I read a lot of. So that will be very easy. I was going to grab it, but I can't freaking find it. Okay, there we go. Merry Mushroom Village Picnic will be for sci-fi. These are not specifically like tied to, like Merry Mushroom Village Picnic does not scream sci-fi, but if they all had to like represent the genre, they would all be fantasy. Let's be real, so it's okay. Alright, the next one is horror, and for that it's Mertensiae. I haven't showed this in a long time, so I will quickly pull up a picture. Ugh, dang it. It moved on me. But this is what it looks like. It's from Unconventional X-Stitch. And that would be for horror. I also grabbed it to show where it's at right now, which is not very far. I'm like 2% into this. I wonder if that's accurate. 1.5% into this, so this needs a lot of progress. There we go. The next one is Romance, which is A Stroll Under the Rain, the mini edition, which y'all have seen this recently. Not this week, but last week. And all the other weeks recently. It's the one by Leonid Afremov from Artisy. Let me pull it up really quick. Stop being lazy. I was like, I don't need to pull it up. Y'all will remember, but I need to stop being lazy. There it is. Okay. That's for romance. Mystery is the Everyday Witches Familiar. Another one that I've been showing a lot recently. Another Unconventional X-Stitch. This is artwork by Elizabeth Alba. And I don't think I pulled this one out. I thought I pulled them all out to show you. Oh yeah, I left this one in its bag. I'm sorry about that. I know people hate the zipper on Flosstube. I'm sorry. Okay. Here it is. Alright, the next one is Mystery. Yeah, that was Mystery. Mystery was for the Everydays Witches Familiar. The next one is Classics / like general or contemporary fiction. So basically, classics or anything that doesn't fit into any of the like the subcategories that I have. And for that, I chose Atlas with Goose. And the reason why that category is a little broad for me is just because I don't read contemporary fiction that doesn't have like a speculative or fabulous twist to it. Like, I need something else usually. So that's kind of like my catch-all. Like, if it doesn't fit into anything else, like, it can go there. But typically it would only be classics. Anyway. This is Atlas and Goose is from Two Legs Make One Cross. And the artist is Anita the Drake. Not very far into this one. Okay. My next one is historical, which I almost didn't choose this category, but because like I said, I kind of want like a speculative or fabulous twist. Like, I want something weird or horror or sci-fi or fantasy, or like I want something besides just being straight historical. But if we add in that, I do read like fantasy historical or sci-fi historical or like romance historical or like all these other genres, or mystery historical. Like, I actually do read historical if it's mixed with some of these others. So I figured I would add it in and just see what happens. And for that, I chose The Soul of a Rose crop, which is by John William Waterhouse. And charted by me. And I'm stitching this on 40 count, so it's very petite. Okay. So those are all my fiction. I have 7 fiction. And then I have 2, so I would say about 15%. I was looking on Storygraph at my fiction to nonfiction breakdown. I'd say about 85% of what I read is fiction. About 15% of what I read is nonfiction. So, like, definitely skews more fiction, but I do have 2 nonfiction categories because I would say probably half of what I read, maybe more, is either science or nature nonfiction. So books about nature, birds, like plants, or just like sciencey stuff in general, like about people's like relationship with, like, I don't know, space or whatever. And then other nonfiction, which tends to be like historical nonfiction or biographies or like things like that. So I split my nonfiction into 2 categories, like the one I read the most and then like the catch-all. Okay, so science and nature nonfiction. I chose Visit Canto, which looks like this. It's by Glitch AU. And I'm not stitching the background on this. I dyed a fabric to match. Okay. And then my other nonfiction one is for my Halloween pumpkin cottage. And this is on, it doesn't work in Pattern Keeper. I could only get it to work in, what is it called? Markup RXP. And Markup RXP is really slow. So that's what I'm opening right now, but it's kind of the worst. So, It's going. Okay. There we go. And this is what it looks like. My Halloween pumpkin cottage. But like you can see, like all of these are fantasy basically. Almost all of them. And that's what I have done on it. Okay, so those are all my genres. And then I have one other category, which is not a genre at all. Because, like, these are all genres. And then I have another category, which is not a genre, but I just thought would be funny to add because I thought it would be funny for, like, every time I read an LGBTQIA plus book, if, like, an extra project got, like, bonus stitches. Because so many of the books I read are queer in some way that I was like, yeah, if whatever project I want to get the most stitches on, if I just was like, is this book gay in some way? This project gets stitches. So I chose A Perfect Sphere for that because honestly, probably like 50% of the books I read, if not more, are somehow gay, somehow LGBTQIA. So there we go. And hopefully that means this will get a lot of progress and I can finish it next year. So here we go. Those are all full coverage pieces. I wanted them to be really easy to work on, like full coverage, in Pattern Keeper, but I didn't want them to be any of my 3 weekly projects because I don't want those to get bonus stitching necessarily. I'm happy for them to just get their allotted amount. And then all of these full coverages will hopefully get a lot of extra stitching. I know that was a lot. Hopefully you followed. And then if you didn't, here's my list if you want to see. So I'm like, if when I read books from these genres, I guess you can stitch along, but I don't know. There we are. How I'm going to be tracking this is that I ended up putting together in this spreadsheet, I have the date, the title, author, the number of pages that the book is, and then the genres that it fits into, and then if I've completed it or not. And so what I think this is going to be for me is that, because obviously a lot of books fit into multiple genres, so the most recent book, I'm just starting this fresh on January, so any books I finished from yesterday on, I'm going to try to do this on. How I'm going to start this off is that if a book fits into multiple categories, I'm going to try to do the stitches for all the categories. But if that gets out of hand, if I get too backed up, if I'm too overwhelmed by that, then I'm going to just start choosing one of the categories. So if a book fits into like 5 genres, if the book is both fantasy and sci-fi and a horror and a mystery and LGBT, then I might just do like a random generator out of the 5 and just choose one of them or something. Because sometimes books fit into a lot of categories, but if it only is in, yeah, so I don't know. But for now, I'm going to try to do all of them. Like the most recent book I finished, it's 103 stitches, it's 103 pages long. So I'm going to try to do 103 stitches. And then the genres that it fits into, it was a sci-fi, it was a mystery, and it was LGBTQIA+. Of course, why wouldn't it not be? It was called Murder My Memory, in case you are curious. So yeah, that's kind of my plan. And I've been wanting to figure out a way. I mean, I did figure out this way a long time ago about like stitching projects for genres. I had this idea, but then since I wasn't reading consistently and since I wasn't tracking the books I was reading consistently, there was just no sense to it. So anyway, that's my thought. I'm finally going to try to do it, and maybe it will bust. Maybe I will hate it. but maybe I will love it. And if you want to adopt this, please do. I think that's awesome. And even if you just did like pages per book with one project or something and just got one project, a bunch of stitches, I think that's awesome as well. It's just that I read a lot of different genres and I think that's fun. I don't know. I like each project having, each genre having its own project. Okay, so I think that's everything with stitching. I'm pretty sure it is. Hopefully that's everything with stitching. So if that's all you're here for the stitching stuff, hopefully I will see you tomorrow, or maybe on the 4th, for an update for some of the stitching. I don't know. I'll probably be posting what I film the day after. So maybe the 3rd or the 4th I'll update some of my stitching. Anyway, and now let's talk about some books I've read. So I know this is already a very long video, but I don't want to dip on sharing what I've read. So really quickly, I'm going to try to go through the books that I've read. I have completed, in the last 2 weeks, 9 books, and I also DNF'd 6 books. So there's 6 books that I didn't like enough that I was like, I don't feel like finishing this. But then there's 9 books I completed, and it was great. So I'm going to go through them, and not the DNFs. I'm not going to share those. But the books that I did complete, I'm going to share, and it's just going to be a grand old time. I'm going to try to do this very quickly, but I think also, yeah, I'll share the genres, I think, as well, just so that you can kind of maybe get an idea of like how I would be classifying and stuff, and it will be good. Okay, let's try to blitz. Here is some of the books, and then I have some on my thing as well. Okay, so another plan for August is I am going to try to do a lot of reading, because, you know, I'm excited about my genre thing. I want to do that, but I want to try to keep my rereads. I'm sorry about the motorcycle. I want to keep my rereads down to 25% of my reading, because my rereads are getting out of control. It is like so much of what I've been reading. I fucking hate this person. This is so obnoxious. Okay. It's been so much of what I've been reading. It's been like half of what I've been reading, and I'm like, I want to bump that down a little bit. Like, now that I feel like I'm out of my slump, I'm like, okay, let's try to ratio the rereads down to like 25%. So let's see in August if I can keep my rereads to 25%. Okay, let's go through them. So I ended up doing, but here we are with all my favorite, like all the 5 stars I gave out this month were all rereads. I reread The Radium Girls by Kay Moore. I wasn't going to reread this, but someone in my family checked this out on Libby, and I was like, well, it's checked out. I give this 5 stars in the past. I read it in 2017 when it came out, and I really liked it. I loved it when it came out, and I read it. I'm like, that is when it came out, right? 2017, yes it is. So it was like, it's been almost, I mean, it's been 8 years since I've read this. I was like, I would love to reread it, see how I feel about it now. Oh my gosh. So this is about, it's the dark story of America's shining women, and it's about, you know, all these women who like died of radium poisoning by like these watch manufacturing companies who were lying to the women in their employ and telling them that the radium was safe and telling them to consume it, and then they got poisoned and died and their bodies disintegrated. And like, this is like way more body horror and horrifying than like almost any other horror book I've read. It's just interesting because I read this before I like in 2017, I hadn't read like any horror at that point, but I was able to get through this because it was like real, whereas like horror isn't, and so that was more scary. I don't know why my brain is like that, but this well, yes, like the story, if it was written by another author, is like interesting and compelling, and like the stuff is interesting. The way that Kate Moore writes this and structures it and shares it and everything, I think is very brilliant. I think that it's so compelling. I think that I don't know, just like all the information she got, all the like journals she hunted down, all the people she talked to, but then also the way that she structured it and like goes about it in like a chronological manner, but then also like chooses when not to be chronological to keep stuff like kind of structured together by location and stuff. I think it's just so interesting. But you definitely kind of have to have a strong stomach to get through this because it is the most horrifying book I've ever read, probably. It is really rough. But it is incredible, and I'm so glad that their stories have been told. And I loved getting to reread it. I could not put it down. I inhaled the whole thing in 2 days. Another reread that was a lot happier was I ended up rereading Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. I do own like probably 8 copies of this book, but they're the only boxes we haven't unboxed since we moved. They're still sitting on top of a bookcase in the bedroom. And I didn't feel like getting them down. So, but I did. I reread it. I haven't reread Alice Wonderland recently, but I just felt like rereading the second book because I love it more than Alice in Wonderland. Through the Looking Glass is my favorite, and I just needed something to listen to and vibe while I was in bed at night. So I read this over the course of like a week, just like little snippets here and there, and it was very fun. And this is one of my favorite books. If you like Alice in Wonderland and you haven't read Through the Looking Glass, I recommend it. If you hate Alice in Wonderland, I don't recommend it because they're similar. Okay, I did a reread. So a different person that I met at Midsummer Stitch, I asked if I could send her because she really likes birds and does bird watching and stitches a lot of bird patterns. I'm going to ask her if I can link her channel down below as well. Not her channel, her Instagram, because she has so many beautiful patterns that she stitched. But I asked if I could send her some book recommendations, and she said fiction or nonfiction. And I was like, well, shit, I meant nonfiction, but I did try to find some fiction that were bird related as well. Bird related book recommendations is what I was asking if I could send her. And so I tried to find some bird related book recommendations that were fiction as well. And one of the ones that came to mind was Becca Cooper, Terrier, and all the books, because the main character, pigeons carry dead spirits until they're ready to pass on to the other life. Like they carry around ghosts until they're ready to pass on, and our main character can hear them. And so when she ends up becoming a police officer, she ends up using the ghosts that she can hear to help solve some crimes. And so they're like a pivotal part of the story, and the book is very bird focused. Like birds are there all the time and they follow her around all the time, and she's constantly feeding pigeons. Pigeons are central to this book. And so I was thinking about it a lot after I recommended it to her, and I couldn't help myself when I reread it. I really love this book. I love Becca as a character. It's all written in like journal entries. So it's her first year basically being a police officer. They're called dogs in this world. And she's writing down everything that happens to sharpen her brain so that she can like give reports every week. And she ends up getting really caught on like a couple different like really big cases that are going on and wanting to track down who is perpetrating them. basically two different like mass serial killers. It's pretty gruesome. It is a YA series, but it's, I would maybe say like on the older side of YA. This was probably my 4th time reading it, maybe, but I love it every time I read it. I don't know if I've explained that I necessarily explained it super well. It is a fantasy series. Oh, I did not explain. Obviously, this one is just other nonfiction for me, and then Alice in Wonderland would just be fantasy. This would be a mystery fantasy. I don't think it would... I'm trying to think if it would fit into any other. Technically, it's like a prequel in this world by Tamara Pierce, so I'm like, technically it's historical in this world, but it's not actually historical. It's made up in a fantasy series world. So I think those are the two that I'd put it in. I think that's all I have to say about this one. I like the world a lot, and I love Tamara Pierce. I think she is one of the best contemporary fantasy writers, like best fantasy writers of our age. She is amazing. Okay, so on that note, I ended up rereading Bloodhound as well, which is the sequel. There's a 3rd book as well, which I haven't gone to. I don't know if I feel like rereading it. I don't like it as much. But this one, so this one, it follows like mass serial killers, basically, like somebody killing children, and then the other one is like hiring people to do some work for them and then killing them so they can't say what work they did. This one is somebody who is making counterfeit money and flooding that into the money pool, which is obviously making inflation go way, way, way up. And so the story of this one is like trying to figure out like where this is coming from and trying to find where the counterfeits are coming from. I don't love this one quite as much as this one, but I still really like it, and I enjoy getting to spend time with these characters and in this world. And again, I just really like, if you do not like an intensely detailed book, these are not the books for you, because she is sharing every little detail about everything, because these are her diaries that she's writing down so that she can write very detailed reports up for her officer. So she's like, this is what this person looked like, this is what blah blah blah, like this is everything that this person said to me, and like writing everything up. So this is every little detail, and if you don't like that, I don't think you would enjoy them, but I love it. Kind of obsessed with Tamara Pierce. Okay, more books. I ended up reading Dune. I didn't read the entirety of Dune in the last 2 weeks. I had read the first book, so it's 3 books in Dune. I read this first section probably last winter, and then I took a break because after like the election and the transfer of power and everything in January of the presidency and stuff, I just got very depressed, and I just felt like my brain was no longer absorbing the book, so I took a break. I had gotten a little bit into book 2, and I was like, I'm not understanding anything anymore, so I stopped. So then I picked it back up after this. I didn't reread book 1, I just started back at book 2. So I read all of this, though. So I feel like I got a good chunk of the way through it. And I did really like it. I didn't love it. I'm not like a massive Doom lover like everybody else in the world seems to be. I understand people being like obsessed with the world because it is very rich and complex and intense, and there's just so much. But honestly, I wanted more from it. Like, I understand, like, the world building being so much, but, like, I wanted there to be, like, more, like, twists and turns and everything. Like, it's a very, like, political sci-fi, and I just wanted more, like, more machinations and more, like, political intrigue and more, I don't know. I just wanted more. I wanted more betrayals and more murder and more everything. Like, I wanted more twists and turns. I thought when I was reading it, I was probably like this far through it. This last bit is the appendixes. I was probably this far through it, and I was telling Chris how far I was through, and he was like, shit's about to go down. And I was like, yes, finally. And then I got to the end, and I was like, that was it? I thought it would be so much more intense. So sorry if the camera shifted. I had to transfer stuff off my phone because the memory got full. Anyway, based off of what I saw about the sequel and stuff, I don't think I'm interested in reading it, but I am glad I've read this. And now I can finally watch the movies, which Chris really loves a lot, so I'm excited about that. Anyway. Okay, now I have a couple more books. First thing, this is the first book I read in August. Oh, and this I guess I would call sci-fi. I think I would call it fantasy too. I know a lot of people don't call this fantasy, but I think I would. I would do sci-fi and fantasy. I think that's it. Okay. Next one. Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite. So I had read a few of this author's historical romances, and I liked them a lot, but I'm so excited that now they're doing sci-fi because this was so fun. So it's a little novella, and it is set in this world where humanity has figured out how to preserve people's minds, and you can continue to like back up people's memories, like and like continue to update people's minds, and now they can like create human bodies, but they haven't really perfected it yet, so they only last a few years before you need to get a new human body. So memory is really the thing, and people's like digital memories that they store in these like books or whatever are really the thing that is humanity, and that the body is not as, I don't know, it's not as important because you can just replace the body over and over and over again. It's a lot more temporal or whatever. And the main character is a detective, and she has decided for the last several years that she doesn't want to be in a body right now. She just wants to be in a book and just be turned off. And when they're in like the memory storage of being in a book, they're not like sentient or whatever. They're just like they're not conscious or whatever. And she wakes up all of a sudden and she's in somebody else's body. So she has to figure out why she's in somebody's body, and she's a detective. So she also has that like extra desire and urge, and she also ends up finding a dead body, so there's definitely something fishy going on. So she's like, why am I in this other body? Why is there a dead body? And like obviously that's not that important that there's a dead body. But if it's like a murdered body, it's like, what is going on? And it's like, what even is life and death when you can just forever put your memory back in a body? And it's just some interesting ideas going on. And it was very short. It was only 100 pages, but I thought it was so fun. The concepts were very fun, and it was a sci-fi mystery, and it was also a bonus of being gay. The main character is a lesbian. And it was just such a vibe. I had such a good time. And there is going to be another book that comes out next spring. I think it comes out in March. I cannot wait, and I hope this is a very long-running series. I want there to be many sequels. Okay, the next book that I read was another sci-fi mystery that also has the bonus of being gay. More lesbians. The Potency of Ungovernable Impulses by Malka Older. So this is the third book in the series. I did grab the cover of the first book so you could see the mimicking of known success. This is a series that follows a detective. And here, I should have pulled up I feel like it's the Investigations of Massa and Plady, I think is how you say her name. But it's a very interesting series. It is this detective noir, very grungy and blue and sad series set on Jupiter. So it has this odd sci-fi setting, and it has this world building of what is this like? What does humanity look like at this point? How would a colony living on Jupiter appear? How did humanity get to this point? Blah, blah, blah. And the two main characters, so it's Massa and Plady. So one of the characters is Massa, who is the investigator. So she's a detective. And they knew each other in school, but they're kind of reconnecting as adults or whatever. So Massa is an investigator, and she's really struggles with depression and has I don't know, it gives it that noir vibe. She's very melancholic, very, I don't know, that blue tone or whatever. And then the other character is Plady, who is I think in the first book she's a professor, but she's just working on other stuff at this college, I'm what is the other word for a college? University or whatever. Set on, obviously it's all on Jupiter or whatever. And she works in a department that is all about studying the past, learning about what it was like on Earth, because nobody who is alive right now has ever lived on Earth, and what it's like and what we can learn from that, and kind of the goal of humans is to get back to being on Earth, because Earth is uninhabitable at this point. And I don't know, it's just so there is a lot of world building, and I feel I really struggled to get into the first book because it was such an odd juxtaposition. I'm so glad I kept going though. I ended up giving the first book 4 stars. I've given all of them 4 stars, but I've liked each one a little bit more than the next, because it is these two characters that I'm falling in love with. I really like them, and I'm very attached to them at this point. They're very messy though. And then there's also this, but the world is so interesting, and there's all this science and everything. But I really like it. I think if it sounds interesting to you, it's worth picking it up. But I haven't read any crime noir books. It's not my vibe. So when I picked it up, it was hard for me to get into, because I was what is this writing style? What is this vibe? It was odd, but it's very fun. So anyway, I read the third book. I can't really tell you what they're about necessarily, because I don't want to spoil anything, but it is fun that in this one, Plady plays a lot bigger role in the primary investigation going on in this one than I feel she has in the other books. And then again, this is the first book if you want to pick up the series, and they're all novellas, although each book is getting a little bit longer. I would barely even say that this most recent one even is a novella. The most recent book is 256 pages, versus the first book was 169 pages. So they're it's like almost 100 pages longer than the first book. Like they're all getting a little meatier. Okay. And I also read Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I did like this. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's about this girl who gets pregnant and then gets sent to a home in Florida for wayward girls, and then starts dabbling with witchcraft. But the horror in this book really is, a lot of it is just like the slowness, the suffocatingness of like the pregnancy and the fear, the rejection of the families, sending them to these homes and being isolated and not being allowed to talk to anyone. Like, that is a lot of the horror in this. It's an interesting take on horror. And there are some more like horror scenes later. But it's a really long book for a lot of nothing, for a lot of it, which is fine. Like, that's the point of it, where it's like a lot of it is just this like drawn out, like the uncomfortableness that these teenage girls that are like as young as like 13 all the way up to like 17 that are in this home are dealing with, and adults aren't explaining anything to them. And there's also, be careful going to this one, because definitely content warning for like rape and abuse of children and like pedophilia and stuff. Like, it was tough to read at some points. I did end up liking it though, but I wouldn't say it was like my favorite book ever. I would say I've read 2 other Grady Hendrix books. I read My Best Friend's Exorcism, and I read Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, or whatever that one's called. I didn't really care for that one, but I did like Best Friend's Exorcism. I gave that one 4 stars, and I would say this one like fits in the middle. And I also tried to read How to Sell a Haunted House, but I couldn't get into that one. I only gave it like a chapter or 2. And this one I would say is fantasy, horror, and historical. It's set in the 80s. So I guess that's historical. I don't know. That's how I guess I would classify it. The main character themselves isn't gay, but one of the other main characters ends up being gay. But since the main character isn't, I'm not gonna say it has the bonus of being LGBTQIA+. Anyway, the final book I read, this was an interesting one. So I ended up rereading The Castle in the Attic by Elizabeth Winthrop, which I read when I was a kid. I don't really remember this book too much. I remembered a couple things from it, but I very vividly remember some scenes from the second book, which is The Battle for the Castle, because that book scared the fucking shit out of me as a kid. So I've had these 2 books on my shelf for a long time, and I've been thinking about rereading it for a long time to see if it was worth keeping. So finally, I was like, okay, I'm going to read it, because I've been going through some of my shelves and reading some books. I read it. I hated it so much. I remember as a kid this book being pretty boring, and I agree as an adult that it is, but also this main character is awful. I hate him. So the premise of this book, which I would say is a fantasy, that's the only thing I'd say it is, it's that he ends up having a nanny who is going back to England, and so before she leaves, she ends up giving him a gift. which is this castle. This like miniature castle or whatever. And there's this little miniature like lead knight in it. And then he realizes that when he touches the knight that he comes alive. But the whole like crux of this novel, the whole first half, like the knight doesn't even come alive until like, I mean, the book's only like less than 200 pages, 175 pages. The knight doesn't even come alive until, I don't know, over 50 pages in or something, or like 50 pages in. Like, it takes a really long time that anything happened. So the first like third of the book almost, is that math? That's not math. Not third of the book. But the first good chunk of the book, like, that was definitely not the right math. That would mean the book was only 75 pages, not 175 pages. Ignore me. I never went to proper school. Okay, but the first, like, good chunk of the book is just him talking to his nanny about how much he doesn't want her to leave and how, like, depressed and sad he is about her leaving. So then as soon as the knight comes alive, he realizes that the knight has this little, like, charm that can shrink people. And so then he uses on his nanny to make sure that she can never leave him. And the knight even says, if you shrink her without her consent, she will keep aging and time will keep passing in your world, and she will basically become like a missing person or whatever if you don't like get her consent first. And so the main character is like, yeah, I'll get her consent. Just let me use the charm. And he doesn't. He just like is like, yeah, you're going to become a missing person and I'm just going to keep you trapped in the attic forever. And at that point, the knight is up there living in the attic, just living off of like mice. He's like catching mice and eating mice. So he's like, yes, this is a perfect life for my nanny, to be stuck in the attic eating mice for the rest of her life. So he does it. He shrinks her. He's a little fucking psychopath. I don't know. I couldn't stand him. And then the whole point of the book at the end is that he was like, he's a really good person and has no flaws. I hated it so much. So I started listening to it on audio. The only way I could get through it is that I sped it up really, really, really fast. I don't know. Every second of it was like pure torture to my brain. I really only got through it because it was so short. And I was just like, where is this going? How are they going to redeem this awful character? Who, like, yes, I understand he's not, like, mentally developed and stuff, but, like, how do you think about this for more than, like, 15 seconds and be like, yes, it's okay that she eats mice for the rest of her life and never speaks to another human being for the rest of her life because I'm not okay with her leaving me. And it's not like his parents don't love him and talk to him and stuff. Like, he even talks about, like, oh, my parents don't stop asking me about how I am and blah, blah, blah. And, like, I don't know. It was so, I don't like it. I hate it. I don't understand how this book, I guess this book has a lot of awards. And my question is, who gave those awards? I don't trust you. And I don't think I'm going to read the sequel. It traumatized me as a kid, and I think I'm just okay to let these books go. Because I hated it. Anyway, those are the books I read. And I would just say that's a fantasy. A horrible fantasy. I gave it 1 star. I hated it so much. It was so bad. So, those are the books that I read. So 9 books I finished. 6 I DNF'd. And how it's going to work with my, like, stitching for my projects is that if I decide not to finish a book, I'm just going to take the amount of pages I've read or calculate the percentage that I've listened to on an audiobook into a percentage of pages, into the amount of pages, and stitch that amount. Because I'm like, if I end up listening to like a bunch of different stuff and get a good chunk into a bunch of them and then decide not to finish them, I still want the like pages to count for my challenge. So we'll see. Anyway, this video is exhaustingly long. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I will see you throughout August with some updates on my stitching. I appreciate it. Anyway, thanks so much. Bye, everyone.